Okay, so welcome to Beyond Business as Usual interview series. I am your host, Philippe Dubray, and today I have the pleasure to be joined with Gabriel Griess, who's the founder of um, Excel Medical Staffing. Is that correct? Am I saying it correct?
You got it right, Philip. Thank you, sir.
Fa- Fantastic. Okay, good. Gabriel, I was very excited to actually be able to do that podcast with you today, just because. I was looking through your website, and it sounds like such a good team to be with. Again, it's we all know that staffing and organizing your team is has a lot to do with having a great environment. And I think you've achieved something. We'll look at this a little bit later now, but let's just kick it off a little bit about who you are, what you do, and a little bit about Excel Medical Staffing. What's this is all about?
Well, there's a lot in there, Philip, and I'll do my best to share with you. Originally a farm kid out of Nebraska, small town, 350 people.
Well,
Yeah, I went K through 12 with 16 of the same 20 people I graduated with. When you took English, it was English. When you took math, you took math. My kids now have AP and different college courses and things they can take. It wasn't that way, uh, and after high school, I went off to the Air Force Academy where I met my dearest and best friend. His name's Kevin, and also my current business partner. So pretty amazing story there. And went on to 20 years of service in the military, retired, and then found our way into the medical staffing space in 2017. But when you think about team and people, we really got our foundation and the DNA that runs through our company through our time in the Air Force.
I can see that, and also, I want to thank you for your service. It's got to be acknowledged. Now, I want to know. Okay, I want to know one thing. So, you were in the Air Force, you were in the military for a long time. How does this affect, or how did this color or work with you being an entrepreneur? What did you take from the military in terms of, and how did you integrate this with the entrepreneurial mindset?
Well, it's kind of interesting because when you join the military, you really don't know how young you are or how much you don't know. Uh, it's crazy. I'm in my early 50s now, and I've been retired almost 10 years.
Well,
And so when you think about the military, the vast majority of uh, the work being done is being done for folks between the ages of 18 and say 26, maybe
mhm.
28. And then after that, most everybody's in management or doing staff work or admin type stuff. They aren't actually doing their job. And so it just really taught me uh, to not be afraid, right? When you're young and you don't know any better, you just go do it. And when I got out of the military, there was a lot I didn't know about business. And, there's so much paralysis when you go look for information, right? You can be overloaded when like, hey, you ask a question and Google returns 1.3 billion results, right? Or you can just go file with the Secretary of State a business license and get an EIN and go to your bank and open corporate business checking account and get to work.
Mhm.
And so in our company, we actually have a phrase that we use a lot, which is go out and break things. Which is just go try. As long as you're being ethical and following our company values and doing the best you can, then get after it. Go do your best, and if it doesn't work out, we'll sit down and we'll debrief it. You know, Kevin, my business partner, who you might actually see walk out at some point during this call. So
Okay.
excuse the transit corridor should it happen. We were actually talking, or we were at a conference the other day around uh, Gino Wickman's book Traction, which I'd highly recommend to anybody interested in business. And one of the speakers spoke into there really are two types of people out there, right? There are people who are permission based and people who are forgiveness based. So if you have a permission based employee, they're often going to be sitting around waiting for you to tell them what to do.
Mhm.
Whereas if you have a forgiveness based employee, they're often going to be out doing the best they can. And they may come to you one day and go, hey, boss, I think I screwed this up. We need to talk. And then you'll fix it and they'll learn and you'll learn and you'll move on. But that forgiveness based person is going to bring so much more value to your organization, assuming they have the right value set and the right ethics. They're worth their weight in gold when you get a good one.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's for sure. I totally can see that. Look, again, I say the same thing, right? You don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get it going. And then you work your way through it. If you have a good staff, then things will come out all right. That's good. Okay, so now let's take a look at a little bit about I want to take a look at the company itself. Excel Medical Staffing. First of all, you work in the staffing, so you can have some spine to work in that field because staffing is not an easy it's not an easy gig. I know because I've done it too. Um, you gotta have a liking for a few things. A liking for people, a liking for matching people in the right place, and lots of empathy as well. I think that would work into this. Um, but okay, so tell me a little bit about the business itself, goal, visions, things like this. I'd like to hear that.
Sure, sure. Um, so we're committed to just providing epic experiences for our clinicians. We have clinicians in four different verticals. So we have traditional travel nursing, where folks take or travel allied or nurse practitioners, what have you. But they're typically 13 or 26 week assignments. They work as W-2s for Excel, and they go relieve a short-term need at a hospital or clinic in their staff. We also help hospitals and clinics hire W-2s, and so when they hire a person we sent over, then we participate in that process. We have a government staffing arm where we're helping the Department of Veterans Affairs or Department of Defense, Indian Health Services, any government agency that needs temporary staff. And then we also have a clinical research arm where we're helping biopharma or major pharmaceutical companies take compounds and then run them through the FDA process to ultimately bring them to market.
Fantastic. Great. And okay, so I don't know if you've observed this, but I'm from Canada. I'm in Canada. And I've observed a few things having to do with staffing. I've observed that there's been a shift in the mental mindset, in the mindset of employees or people applying for jobs. Have you noticed that in the US at all? Has yet some kind of a bit of a shift since COVID or something like this?
Is there a specific shift you're asking about, Philip?
Yeah, in the mindset.
But mindset around what? Like
In terms of
work or wages
expectancy,
or
what does the employee wants, what the employee needs, various things like this.
yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot about the return to office stuff out there in the media right now. We're a completely remote workforce. Like I have a small office in basically a WeWork environment, a common office area that we really enjoy. It helps me to leave the home.
Yeah.
My house is only a mile from here. And so myself and Kevin and one other executive come in here, but we're also, well, I hate to say it, older dudes who, that's what we're used to, right? We're used to going to an office. But we have a lot of folks, in fact, everybody else in the company, works from home or some other location. And so, expectation wise, I know there's a lot more desire for flexibility in the post-COVID world. I think folks got their priorities straightened out, frankly, in that their family has at least risen to on par with their profession, if not gotten into the position where it belongs, which is in front of their business or in front of their employment arrangement. And so I think that's a mind shift change we've seen that frankly is really positive, right? From a big picture bureaucrat business type space, you might see how that or interpret that as is not good, but I think it is wonderful because ultimately the employees, the people putting their time in, are in a better position. They're typically happier, assuming they've landed in a profession that they really enjoy. Their performance will have gone up. And frankly, with good key performance indicators, you can see who's doing the work and who's not. And so then you just have good HR practices to manage or reward that depending upon what you're seeing from your employees.
Fantastic. You mentioned a little bit earlier that you mentioned the book Traction, the
Yes.
EOS, which
Yeah.
I think it's a great system. Let's talk about core values. Again, let's get into this a little bit here.
Let's
What
do
are
it.
what are the core values that you've built your company on?
Well, we wouldn't have good military DNA if it wouldn't be an acronym. So our acronym is We Care, and our values are winning, equitable, clinician focused, adventurous, responsive, and ethical. And so each one of those speaks into various elements that are really key to the success of the company, but more importantly, key to how we treat our clinicians. I don't know if you ever read the book Story Brand, but it's a really neat marketing book that's fantastic. And one of the differentiators in Story Brand is to make the customer, in this case, the clinician is our customer, the hero of the journey. And so we really seek to support the clinician in whatever it is they're looking to do, their professional development, their personal development. All those things play into how we work with our folks and Traction. In fact, I'll show you. I've got the books right here. I was just on a call with a new employee that we're bringing on, but here's Traction for your folks. Gina
Yeah,
Wickman,
there you go.
fantastic book. And one of the most interesting things is if you run it, you get your company down to a 2-page, 8.5 by 11 thing called a VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. And it's a little bit of a solid read, kind of an MBA level read. But then we have this book for our staff who don't need to have all the nuts and bolts, and it's called What the Heck is EOS? And so we use this as a common language inside the company for how we run it and the language surrounding how the business is run. So it's really clear. But frankly, the more important piece that we do is we also have our folks read this book, which is the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the four agreements are always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't make assumptions, and don't take things personally. And what I found is that any disagreement in the business or the personal world, oftentimes you can distill that down to somebody not being impeccable with their word, not doing their best, taking something personally, or making an assumption, and that just causes everything to come apart at the seam. So we use those to create both a common language on how we engage with people, and then a common language on how we engage across the company writ large.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I see you really have and again, we were talking before the podcast, you've experienced some pretty solid growth in the 2024. With growth always comes volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where organizationally speaking, when you have an increase of volume, you see all the weak points just popping out, right? Just because this is where the pressure is. Now, how do you, again, part of the EOS is, right people, right seat.
Absolutely.
How do you manage that, and what's the secret sauce here? Because you don't achieve that kind of growth without a secret sauce. So, would you mind talking about it? If you feel like you don't want to give the secret, hey, that's fine, I understand, but I'd like to hear about it.
There's really no secrets, right? Humanity's the same as it was yesterday and will be tomorrow. The only thing I think that really changes the technology that surrounds us. And so, the answer is right people, right seats, and having the courage to have challenging conversations when maybe somebody isn't in the right seat or isn't the right person. And
Hmm.
so, setting up an organization, setting up processes, holding to those processes is key. In fact, last year, I do this every year. I haven't picked 2025, but this was the post-it note from 2024. What's the standard? just what's the standard?
Mhm.
And anytime we had a challenge in the company,
You like
uh,
to.
somewhere in that dialogue, I'd go, well, what's the standard? Like I get something's broken, but did we ever define what right looks like? Right. Or did we define what winning looks like? And that's our first value. Right. So winning looks like it's done on time. Winning looks like it's done in excellence. Winning looks like, it's 3 pages, Times New Roman font, whatever. Like the standard is the starting point upon which you can then have um, real conversations that are depersonalized a little bit,
Mhm.
right? When there's no standard, Philip, and we have a conversation about something, it's real easy for you to take it personal. It's really easy for you to be defensive. And when we get to being defensive, or trying to be right, we lose
Yeah.
the frame on how to get to a solution that supports the company, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about the traction system is when you get into IDS, which is identify, discuss, and solve problems, you really can seek, when done properly, to get to the root to eliminate a problem. Nothing's more frustrating to me than when we go through the time and the challenge to solve a problem, and then it isn't codified or documented. And then in 3 or 4 or 5 months, it pops back up, and I'm like, wait, didn't we already
I thought we
solve
did with
that?
that, right?
Why are we doing this again? And so it requires patience, and it requires what some would consider time to be inefficient, right? When you're writing stuff down, or you're taking time to troubleshoot things, or you're taking time to sort of branch and sequel, if then
Right.
a situation. But it really creates clarity, and more importantly, it's duplication, right? So often entrepreneurs, especially when we start, we're the chief cook and bottle washer, maitre d. We're out shopping for produce. We're the ones turning the lights. We're doing everything. And then you add one person, and then you add another person, you add another person, and so the only way to really grow is to get your processes on paper, and to teach those, and to duplicate it, and to be willing to stand by the process. And if it's not right, then you rewrite it and you change it. But until it's found to be weak or faulty, then that's what you do, and you hold people accountable to the standard.
Fantastic. No, this is great. Um, And again, I think it's building the agreement, and then you've got that juggernaut that's you got an aligned vectors, and then you
Mhm.
generate power when you do this. This is great. It's music to my ears. I love hearing this, and the listeners and people that will get onto the podcast. This is words of wisdom. Somebody who's been there and done that. So thank you for sharing that with us. Last thing I want to go over with you is, okay, so let's say you go back to the beginning, your first project, your first, when you started to your entrepreneurial journey, right? Knowing what you know now, what would you tell, let's say you get into a time machine, we go back to that time. What would you tell yourself, your younger self? What kind of tips would you give your younger self to to uh, to to make the journey easier than it was?
I don't know if it can be easier.
Okay.
Um, and I don't know that really you want it to be easier, right?
Okay.
Because there's going to be hard times. There just are, right? And so you need to be prepared, and to have the resiliency to get through those hard times. What what I would look at is when I'm grounded in my vision, right? When I have my purpose and my vision clear, and I know that every day I'm taking ground in that direction, it's just to get up and do it again, right? You got to be open to feedback, and you got to be aware of what's happening in the marketplace. But um, I don't think we'd be the company we are today without the challenges we faced in the beginning. And frankly, we tried to build a staffing company without anybody from the staffing industry because there are some real challenges in the industry that we were seeking to change.
Right.
And and that was almost a complete failure. Like
Okay.
to the point we almost shut the company down. And we revamped ourselves and we re-examined that premise and said, well, are there types of people in the staffing industry that maybe are in the wrong home that would be better suited being with Excel? And that was probably the spark, I think, that really started our growth arc. And that is, we went to find people who really put their clinicians first, who were
Hmm.
strong on empathy, which you spoke about earlier, who really cared about the people they were working with, and they weren't a widget, they weren't a sale to be made, they weren't somebody to take advantage of because they were new in the industry and they could underpay them. We found people who really wanted to go to bat for the clinicians they were working with, they were putting to work, and then to stand by those clinicians. And so once we did that, we really began to find the right people for the right seats. And and frankly, that began to be noticed in the temporary medical staffing environment. And then this last year has been very tough. The last 2 years have been very tough in the temporary medical staffing space. And a lot of amazing people have hit the street that we've been able to hire. And so we started 24 with, I think, 9 internal employees, and we ended the year with right about 25, and we'll probably end this year with 50 internal staff supporting our external field staff of clinicians. And so um, I think what I'd say is don't look for it to be easy, right?
You want to be
I'd say,
comfortable, right?
well, I would say a prayer to say, God, make me stronger. Give me more wisdom. Um, Give me the courage to get up another day and to step into the arena, right? You think about Teddy Roosevelt's poem, The Man in an Arena, right? That's it, right? There's always going to be people in the stands jeering or critiquing or doing whatever. But if you're following your vision and your purpose, then in some ways the results are going to be what they're going to be.
Good. I mean, that makes sense to me, and it's great. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Again, it's inspirational, right?
Oh, thanks. Well, it's
Thank you.
funny that question really turned. Uh, I have a book that's coming out in June called The Results Tree, and that last question actually turned right into the details of that book. So when it comes out, I'll send you a copy.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
great. That's pretty much the time we have for this. Actually, we get a little bit more time. Future next year, what's your goal? Where is Excel Medical Staffing heading?
Well, so our government organization is growing. We actually launched a new joint venture with a much larger government staffing firm. It's called MedForce X, so it's live and in the world. So that'll be growing. And the other place I think we're really seeking growth is uh, we found our way into the clinical research space and have had great success there. And so we're really operationalizing that offering. So we're looking into some of the logistics support, some of the scheduling support, some of the just the human resource management to be able to make decentralized clinical research a reality. That's been something the FDA has directed a lot of the drug companies and manufacturers to do,
Oh, really?
and for various reasons. Well, mainly because they've just done brick and mortar clinical research primarily in the past. Folks have been resistant to it. But we have some amazing partners in the clinical research space where we're really at the forefront of that decentralized study. And so we're excited to do more work in that space.
That's fantastic. Well, the future looks great. for
Thank you. Thank
for
you.
the accelerators of Excel medical staffing. I really like this accelerator on your website. I thought
Y-
that was
Yeah,
pretty
well,
cool.
that's what we call our recruiters. And so I love it. And really our job, going back to StoryBrand, our job is to accelerate the clinician along their life's journey,
That's
right? To help them
fantastic.
out. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for this. Very inspirational. Lots of good points, and I think people should people that if you're watching this podcast, take it to heart. We got Gabriel, who has created with his partner a great expanding, growing business. He's got the results, so this works. Okay, so thank you very much for this, Gabriel. For the rest, well, stay tuned for the next episode of Beyond Business as Usual. Thank you so much. Bye bye for now.
Awesome. Thank you.